Hello there everyone, welcome to part 6 of drawing all 64 of my original characters. And this is actually the final episode, unless I decide to make a sequel for all the new OCs I've already made, and, will make, obviously. It's been so fun to do this, and thank you all for the support, and without further ado, let's get into the first character. Okay, I'm finally drawing Catherine. So Catherine is the main character of the second phase of my main fantasy story I call Zenadia. She is a star, which is just the short version of saying one of the star people that I should probably have a better name for. It's a little late for that though. But the star people are the only ones who can use light weaving, which is the main magic system in this world. But ever since Avalon's reign, who I drew in episode 2 I think, it's been outlawed. Because of this, the decay has been slowly growing stronger. The decay was once believed to be a blight or disease of sorts, but Catherine's mentor, Mr. Carly, who I'm drawing next, figures out that the decay is the dark god that in legend, light weaving kept away. So now that Ziva, the Star Empress who I drew last episode, is under the influence of the decay, Catherine is sent to gather crystals to strengthen her own light weaving, and eventually, hopefully, purify all of Zenadia. Catherine is young for a star. She's around 15, I'd say. And no, I don't completely have her age planned out, but yeah. She has a very blunt and I'm tired of this stuff, just tell me the answer personality. And I really love her, and she's fun to have as a character, because usually you might see those kinds of personality traits in an older character. But she has them, but she also has she has more childish expressions and humor and thought process that kind of contrast against that, and I think it's pretty fun. And also, I don't think I've actually mentioned this before, but I see the second phase of Zenadia as a Metroidvania game, which is my favorite genre of game. Only the second phase though, because the first phase with Dane, who I drew in episode 1, I see more of some kind of comic or something. And yeah, let's move on before I start rambling on too much about that, because I could probably go on for days. Mr. Carly. Okay, Mr. Carly is one of the star people and mentor to Catherine. He's a kind old man of about 120-ish, and has a passion for history and the old religion. He's secretly procured a sage stone, which basically allows you to use all the light weaving powers in quick succession and, together. Usually you can only choose 1 or 2 types to carry with you and impractically switch between them. But the sage stone allows you to use movement, shields, healing, attack, and purification quickly. There were only a few made, and they were supposed to be destroyed, but a few of the sages from the older times were able to hide them before Avalon could get to them. And yeah, that's about it for Mr. Carly's lore. He's really just a very intelligent and sweet old man, and I like him. He's fun. Though I wouldn't call him like a main character. He's a mentor character. He gets Catherine's foot through the door. Flaki is a nymph, and his goal is to become a master swordsman. He meets Catherine on her way out of the Hollows and takes every chance he gets to join her on her little quests. Oh, Flaki is very fall-inspired, as you can probably see, and is really, in general, just a design I like. I think it shows off his fun personality pretty well. It's a bit different than most of the nymphs. They tend to have a bit more free-looking clothing, and they use a lot of, just flowing things, kind of more whimsical. But Flaki, while it's still mostly practical, it's also the leaf cape, the leaf half cape thing, kind of brings out a little more of Floki's fun side. And yeah. Something I like to note about nymphs is that they have tattoo-like images on their skin that relates to whatever plant they're based off of. The general is a wraith like the Huntress in episode 4. A wraith is a creature of unknown origins, but what is known is that they didn't show up until after the first phase. And I don't like, I don't have like a year timeline for Zenadia yet, so that's all you're really gonna get out of me for time period. It's after what I call the first phase. And they're pretty much insane until someone puts something that gives off shade over their head. Once this is done, they will follow the command of, whoever put the shade over their head. The general is a particularly intelligent one, probably because he's one of the oldest of the wraiths. The longer they have shade over their heads, the more human-like they become. Though they're still very loyal and follow orders, but they're more self-thinking. I'd say, for instance, as like an example, say Ziva has a plan of attack that she wants to perform. He could provide input and his own expertise and apply it to the challenge. He wouldn't you could give him more complex things to do and he would be able to problem solve them himself. The general is under strict command of Empress Ziva, and he is also in command of the Zenadian Empire's army, hence the name, or more like title, the general. And I love this general's design, but I kind of want to redo this drawing. I feel like it doesn't quite do him justice. Especially, I feel like the physique just isn't as impressive in this drawing as it actually is, so yeah, there's that. I'll probably put up like a picture of what he looks like in comparison to the other characters. Zed, or Zedekiah, is part of Dane's main squad. Dane is the first phase protagonist, and he's a healer of sorts. He and his sister Zapora lived in the mountains, but left due to the war with Treden, the enemy to Servalos, the Elf Kingdom. After leaving the mountains, he left for the Spirit Forest, where his grandfather lives, only to find that his grandfather is on his deathbed. After a few last words and instructions, young Zed, well, technically 50-year-old Zed, but he's an elf, so it's more like 18 comparatively. But Zed takes over the duties of taking care of the Spirit Woods. This includes caring for the grave sites there and keeping up with the rituals that keep the land holy. He ends up befriending a spirit called Elio that takes the shape of a green flame, who should be somewhere on the drawing. You'll probably spot him because he's bright green and glowing. And he as well finds a fae by the name of Felicity. I drew her in episode 2. Eventually Dane, who knew Zed's grandfather, came to look for him, but only found Zed. Dane takes Zed on as a healer for his squad, and Zed has been hanging out with him ever since. Zed is often flat with people, blunt and gives short answers and comes off as rude and standoffish, but Dane doesn't really have a problem with dealing that, as he's cut of the same cloth. He has a very get-to-the-point personality, you could say. Yeah, but now Zed is a part of the team. And 2 characters that I actually have for the main squad for Dane, I actually didn't have as OCs at the time. So yeah, maybe I should do a part 7. But I don't know, it'll probably be a little while before I do that. Who knows? I'll think about it. Zapora is Zed's older sister and was always protective of him. When the mountain villages were being invaded, she took it upon herself to pack a horse, take Zed, and run to her grandfather's sanctuary. She's a very take-charge person and self-sacrificing. On their way to the woods, Zed and Zapora were ambushed by Treden stragglers. Zapora was determined that her younger brother would make it through, and she ended up getting shot with a crossbow bolt and sustaining several injuries. Zed made it out with a, healthy dose of trauma, sorry buddy, and a scar, but still alive because of her. Zapora unfortunately passed. Sorry this one's a bit of a downer. I usually don't say stuff like this because it's a bit spoilery because it's a character death, but this happens relatively early in Zed's story, and Zapora isn't in the story for long, so there's not a lot to talk about her with, so that's why I decided to add this in. Duke Caven. Okay, so Duke Caven is the leader of the nymphs, such as Flaki. The nymph dukedom, I guess it's called if he's a duke, is relatively small and is called Fergal, or the Fergal Forest, but it's a little more than forest because they have a lot of plant life there. The nymphs are pretty chill and peaceful, and Caven is just, I don't know, he's a fun character. I feel like I say that a lot though, so I don't know, maybe that's losing a bit of its meaning, but I love all of my OCs, so. He is showy and dramatic and a very flashy character. He uses a rapier as his weapon and often has fancy duels held. Like I said when talking about Catherine, I see the second phase of Zenadia as a video game, and Duke Caven would be a really fun boss fight, I think. Something akin to Mantis Lords, but with a very dancer flair. And yeah, I think his design is fun. Something to note about nymphs is that they like to show off their tattoos. So usually they have pretty simple clothing. It's usually a little flowy, and they'll usually have their arms and legs mostly seen. But Duke Caven, because, you know, he's a part of the court, he has to look a little more professional than the average nymph. So a lot of court nymphs, such as Caven, will use sheer fabric where they can, so he uses it on his sleeves. I really like his design. I think I just like it. It's fun. Alright, YK, King of Treden. So this is one of the main villains in the first phase of Zenadia, and I guess you could call him Dane's arch-nemesis. Treden is the land that borders the elf kingdom of Servalos on its northern side. The Decay has made its home there due to the not so amazing things that they participate in. Think gladiator, unlawfulness, general conflict, all those things can perpetuate the Decay. And at this point, people believe that it's some sort of disease that's spreading from the land and plants to the people and animals. So they don't exactly know that their bloodlust is helping the Decay along. YK himself is infected with the Decay, and several of his people are. Due to their land dying, they're invading Servalos. This sort of gets the story rolling with Dane, the main character of Phase 1, going with a small party to help with the invading Tredens. But while Dane's gone, he gets news that his home village was razed by the Treden raid. And, well, you'll see what else I have in store for Dane sometime, I'm sure. So the Potions Artificer is a wraith like the Huntress and the General, and as a refresher, a wraith is a mysterious creature that has no memories of what they were before, or even that they were anything before. And if you place a shade over their head, such as a hood, or in this case a veil, you now have control over them, and they will act on your orders. Over time, though, they can become more independent thinkers, but still fiercely loyal to your word. Now, the Potions Artificer is an NPC I envision Catherine meeting, and gets some cute side quests to help her repair the Artificer's old master's hut. And I think it'd be really cool to have, and maybe like you get to choose decorating items, and just a cute OC. She's mostly just a design right now, but still a fun one, I think. Okay, Vega is the brother of my OC Connor, who I drew last episode. Like I said in the last episode, he's the bad guy and manipulated Connor to help him. Vega is later defeated by Connor, and yeah. Anyway, Vega is named after the star because, as you can probably see, I think you may not be at that part in the painting yet, but he is a very galaxy-like, and he has a star visible through his chest, so Vega, star, bam, got it. I'm so original. And yeah, honestly, I just like his design. I don't really want to spoil a lot about him because he's a shared OC I have with Dexter Cat. Very fun. Let's move on to the next OC. Okay, so I believe I said this in the first episode, but maybe not. I wasn't going to draw all the alternative universe versions of my characters, but I just really wanted to draw the Royal Connor design I have. And I am so glad I did because I love this drawing. Like I said when I was talking about Roderick in the first episode, the Royal AU doesn't really have any story and is really just random scenarios and just an excuse for me to draw some pretty dresses. But I don't know, this one it turned out really good. The differences between the Royal AU Connor and just Connor in general, at least design wise, is obviously the Royal Connor is human, and instead of the dark, the black markings that he has across his face, he has scars instead, which is kind of hard to see in this one. But he does have them over his right eye. Yeah, that's his right eye. And the hair is longer, tied back a little bit and pure white instead of black and white. And the armor, I love drawing armor. It's so much fun. Armor is just cool, okay? And I don't want to draw anything else ever. That's not true, but sometimes it is. Yeah. I love drawing armor, and armor is cool, and you should draw some too. Give all of your OCs armor now, I dare you. And yeah, I love the fall scene and the rain. I just think it's such a nice vibe, and of course I got to draw some cool armor, so that's always a win. This is officially the last speed paint of the whole series, unless I make more parts for my other OCs that I made, and it's my persona. I'm just going to go over my thoughts on the series as this is going on. All you really need to know about the persona is I have several different versions, so it's always different. I just felt like doing the blue hair design than my usual, like, say my brown haired one that I have a lot, or I don't know, any of the several others that I have. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. So I started this series on a whim back in June, and it took me about 55 days to finish all of the art. I know I said like 46 or something previously, but that was because I was looking at the JPEG files and not the Clip Studio files. I had thought they were done on the same day, but apparently not, so sorry about that. That was not too far off because I actually took a week-long break in the middle of it because I needed to go out of town and I couldn't like bring my laptop and drawing tablet with me. So I finished the Vega art piece on August 17th. And then took forever to write the script and record it. I don't know why I was procrastinating so much for the recordings, but I did, so now I'm here speed editing these so I can get them out in a weekish. As for the actual challenge, I think it was really helpful and fun. It's a great excuse to draw all of those OCs that are collecting dust, but maybe you still want to tell your friends about them, only to realize that all of your art of them is old and you don't want to use it. Or maybe you just have a random sketch, or maybe you don't have a drawing at all of them and you realize that they're just in your head. But now you have a nice shiny piece of art to show them off. I'm pretty impressed that I was able to get this done in the time period that I did, as when I did my drawing every day for 30 days challenge earlier this year, it seemed so hard, but for me at least, this was a nice experience time-wise. I think it might be because I didn't have a drawing every day, and instead I could do like 3 drawings one day and then no drawings the other. And so I think that somehow like helped me a lot. Yeah. My favorite piece of this challenge was probably Dane's, but I also really like Royal Connor's, Japheth's, and Clayton's. As for my least favorite, it's probably Sylvan's. It's just simple and it's not really like a character that I was super interested in drawing, so I'm not sad about it. Now, as for the videos, thank you all so much for the support on them. The comments have all been super supportive and I really appreciate them. And it's so cool that some of you have been wanting to try this for yourself and telling me about all of your OCs and how many you have. It's insane. I don't know how you guys do it. Yeah, this series just it's been so fun. And thank you for showing interest. If you want to see more of my art, you can go to my Instagram, Art by Sci-fi, or check out my other speed paintings and animations. And I will see you later. Bye!